Hi and welcome. Lisa here for Whimsy Stamps. Thanks for taking the time to join me. Today I have two Christmas cards I'm sharing with you. And I wanted to do this video to show you how you can use separate products but still achieve the same feel to a card. In front of me, I have pattern paper. This is what inspired me. My color palette is pulled from this pattern paper. This is from the Cozy Winter Paper Pack. I do believe it's no longer available, and that's okay. You can use whatever paper you have on hand. I encourage you to do that. The connected rectangle is going to be the foundation for my wreath. If you don't have the rectangle, maybe you have the connected oval. You could use that as well. The most important thing to remember here is that you just need a foundation to build your wreath on. So I'm using the Christmas Branches die set. This die set is stunning. The embossed detail on the die cut pieces is absolutely beautiful with that die set. To get started with our cards, I have two pieces of 5.5-inch high by 8.5-inch wide cardstock. I'm scoring those on the 2 1/8 of an inch mark and then again on the 4 1/4 inch mark. We're going to fold our cardstock on that 4 1/4 inch mark, and it's going to create an A2 card base. Then we're going to take and fold on the 2 1/8 of an inch score mark. We're going to fold that back on itself to create our Z fold. I'm going to trim my pattern paper to 2 inches wide by 5 3/8 of an inch long. We're going to use glue to adhere this paper to the front left flap of our card. We're going to do this on both of the cards. Now, I've cut 4 pieces of pattern paper. I'm going to use a second piece of the pattern paper on the inside of the flap. Now, you could use white cardstock for this instead of the pattern paper, but I thought it would be really pretty when the recipient opens the card up and sees this gorgeous pattern paper here on the inside of the card. We need 3 more pieces of white cardstock cut. Now, 2 are going to be cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and 1 more is going to be cut to 3 3/4 of an inch wide by 5 inches high. The 2 pieces that are 4 inches by 5 1/4 are going to go on the inside of our card where we can stamp or write a sentiment, and the other piece we'll use to stencil. Okay, so I'm going to do some stenciling now with the Jolly Holly stencil. This is an amazing new stencil from Whimsy. And I'm going to start by stenciling the smaller pine cone right in the center of my 3 3/4 inch by 5 inch piece of white cardstock. I'm using inexpensive Ariel repositionable labels that I've just torn into large sections so I can cover up a majority of whatever I don't want to stencil. Now, that's one of my tips. When you're stenciling, just cover things up around where you're working so you don't end up with ink wherever you don't want it, and you'll be good to go. And you see, I use the same repositionable labels over and over and over while I'm doing this. If you want to stencil over something like I did the evergreen there in a lighter shade, come in with a darker shade like I'm doing here with the holly leaf over that evergreen. And I'm using a real dark teal color along with my lighter shade of ink. And it's going to cover up what's underneath there and give you a nice layering effect. Now, this stencil has 3 lines in the bottom right corner of it, and those are for the center of your holly leaves. It's such a beautiful detail. When I peel this back, you'll see it. Again, masking off a majority of what you've already stenciled underneath the stencil, and then cover up around what you're stenciling on top of the stencil. And you shouldn't have any problem creating the look of layers while you're stenciling. And you don't have to be neat about it. You don't have to create a bunch of individual masks to cover everything up. Just use your masking paper to cover around the top of your stencil and under your stencil, like I said already, to mask off what you've already done on your paper. Quick tip for you. I stencil everything in black and white. So stencil it with black ink, run it through my scan and cut, let it scan it, take it out, and then I run plain white paper through my scan and cut and just cut out the pieces. I keep those with the stencil so that I can create my own die cut stenciled pieces. Now you can skip the black and white, just stencil your pieces onto white cardstock with your colored ink and run those through your scan and cut. But once I do a couple of sheets and keep them with my stencil, I don't have to worry about doing that again. I can just go in there, grab what I want, line my stencil up over my die cut piece like I'm doing here, and ink it up. And I don't have to worry about running back and forth through the scan and cut. I have several pieces that I just keep on hand and we're good to go. It's a little tip. Do it in black and white, then cut you a bunch of blank pieces and just keep those on hand. Here, I'm just going to finish inking up the berries that I'm using. I'm doing two colors on this one here. As you can see, I'm using a pink color and a brown color on that one. This is a great way to add dimension to your project. So I'm going to come in with mounting foam to the back of that pine cone, play around with the placement of my berries that I die cut and stenciled. And then we'll add those to the back of this and add them to the card. This is a great way to add dimension to your card. Also, I wanted to let you know that if you don't have a scan and cut, don't worry. You could stencil these and fussy cut around them. Pretty easy, no big deal. Here, I've come in with my gel pen. I've added details to the images that I stenciled. Plus, I'm going around the whole panel with my gel pen and a ruler. Just adding a real pretty gold line around that. I think this adds such a fun, festive touch to the card. So now all I need to do is adhere this to the front of my card. So I've decided where I want it. I'm going to add a little tick mark to the back side right along the edge there. And what this is going to do, it's going to let me know exactly where to stop applying the glue. Plus, when I get ready to put this back on my card, it helps me know exactly where I want to line it up again. Have our glue down. We're lining this up. I'm going to close the card up now so I can make sure I have this centered and exactly where I want it. And then I'll give it a firm push down and set it to the side so we can start working on the next card. For this next card, this card is real easy because it's all about die cutting. And I've die cut the connected rectangle out of gold foil. Plus I cut several layers out of white cardstock. We're going to go ahead and stack these together because we're not using a piece of white paper on the front or white cardstock on the front of this card. We're just going to add our wreath to it. So by building up a few layers, it's going to give it some strength and stability. I'm just going to use my liquid glue and go ahead and start stacking these one on top of the other, and then we'll set them aside and let them dry while we start ink blending our die cut pieces. So I have some die cut pieces laid out here. Now this is the Christmas branch die set. This is such a beautiful set, like I said at the beginning of the video. I'm using some light colors. These are the same colors that I stenciled with. And some areas of my die cut pieces, I'm going to leave those white. Other areas, I'm going to ink up darker and then fade out into that white. I cut 2 each of the dies from this die set using 100-pound Neenah Avalanche white cardstock. Once I have all the pieces inked up and I'm happy with them, then I'm going to start to figure out how I want to arrange them to build my wreath. So you can see I played around a little bit with the placement of my pieces and I have them laying on top of the wreath. I'm going to take a piece of purple tape. I'm going to run it down the sleeve of my jacket just to take a little bit of the tackiness off of it and then run it right across my die cut pieces. And that's going to hold all of these together. I'm going to flip them over and then I'll be able to pull each piece layer by layer until I have my wreath completely built. I'm going to be using a combination of round foam adhesives and liquid adhesive to add all of the pieces to my wreath so that I won't be able to see them once I'm done. I also went ahead and die cut the happy, or not the happy, I'm sorry, the large Mary word die to go across my wreath. Then I'll stamp the sentiment Christmas from the Happy Sayings stamp set onto white cardstock to place directly beneath that Mary. Now that we have the wreath built, we're going to add that to the front of our card. And I'm doing the same thing I did with the stenciled panel. I added tick marks so I would know where to apply my glue. And then also I can go back and line this up on the card with ease with those pencil marks there. That's going to wrap us up for this video. I hope you enjoyed joining me as much as I enjoyed sharing this with you all. I hope the tips help out. Let me know what you think about the cards in the comments below. For more information on the products I used, you can head over to the Whimsy Stamps website and check it out there. And until next time, take care.